reflect on here, because I'm definitely in favor of the bridge riders, and I'd like to make that out here.
Yeah, I believe most, not all the commissioners did speak after the public comment.
So you would like us to include all of the comments from the commissioners individually?
Yeah, I think that I would agree with Commissioner Stewart that that would be a good idea.
That's the only one I'm worried about. The rest of it, like the with the tour we took with the lights and everything, everybody had the same idea. So if it just reflects that I am in favor of the bridge riders, that'd be fine.
Okay, would you like to make a motion to...
I'll make a motion to add that to the minutes.
Okay, and should we continue approval of the minutes to the next meeting then? Or?
So yeah, so just the clarification would be, would you want, you're saying you just want to make it known what your motion was, so did you want to have individual comments? I just want to clarify, or did you want just the vote count?
Okay, well,
for Ridge Riders?
I would say that anybody else who wishes to add their comments, I would include it in the motion. If I'm the only one, that's fine too.
Okay.
I think if you're going to include one, include all.
I would,
yeah.
That would be a motion, so.
Okay, motion to include all comments.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Motion to amend the minutes to include all commissioner comments to be made and seconded. May we have a roll call?
Roll call. Commissioner Arredondo?
Aye.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Aye.
Commissioner Cox?
Here.
Commissioner Din?
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis?
Aye.
Commissioner Stewart?
Aye.
Chair Kaufman?
Aye.
Chair Lopez?
Aye.
Vice Chair Lopez?
Motion passes. Was that 9-0?
9-0.
9-0. Okay, proceeding now to new business. And first on the new business agenda is concert share.
So on January 31st will be the California Park and Recreation Society concert share. And the concert share is an annual event that is held that has bands from all genres that attend and perform and have booths and share information. Some of them have demo CDs, etc. And it allows the Park and Rec professionals to solicit bands. We usually start in January, which is why it's in January, because we're already either connecting with our bands previous year to, as soon as they're done performing, we book for the next year, or we wait and then start booking them in January. So I believe we have 3 people from the commission that have RSVP'd already that are confirmed to go. The city will pay for the registration. So I just need to remind everybody to make sure that you let us know ASAP, and I believe by next week is the deadline, January 17th. So we need to make sure whether or not, when you're letting us know if you wanted to carpool, if you're just going to meet us there, however you want to do it. But one of the things that we wanted to do this year, because in taking over concerts the last couple of years, we've addressed we're trying to address the issue of what the community wants for bands. And what one person likes, another person doesn't like, we get that, but ultimately we're trying to provide a fun family event and covering all different genres. We don't want to just provide concert series that is all rock and roll or all Latin or all jazz. We're trying to be diverse. And so we thought it would be a good idea this year to invite all the commissioners to concert share. Whoever can attend would make recommendations on the bands that we would be using. I know that council's pretty particular about using such bands as Mariachi Divas, or as in the past we've done like a Cold Duck or something like that. So we're not married to anything, but I know that those are 2 bands in particular that have huge draws. So if they would be available, we would reach out to them and find out and move forward with that. But other bands, and we have a 6-week concert series, we would be looking for your input as you attend a concert share. And I would reiterate that we have 3 people that are confirmed, and what we're looking for from that event is if we come away from that event solidified, Mike's going, letting him know, yeah, we're for sure, we like this band, and if there's something that's, in the balance, because maybe can't be a consensus of the 3 people that are there, and you want staff to weigh in, then we can definitely do that. But we definitely want this to be a collective effort of just not staff choosing, but representation from commission. So at this time, any questions or comments?
I had a question. On the email, it stated January 30th. So it's the 31st confirmed?
It is the 31st, it's this
the
day.
31st.
Oh, okay.
Does that change your availability?
I have the 30th also.
Which one's the following email after or no?
Okay.
Yeah, I did send the initial date, I had wrong, and I said, I thought we sent a second email fixing that date, if not, I apologize.
Okay, but this is the.
Yeah, the 31st is the date.
Okay, I just need to.
And we apologize for being, if it feels like it's last minute, concert share is always last minute. I don't know if it's this like little best kept secret, you know, in the industry, it's
that's
for whatever reason.
Recreation, it's.
Yeah.
I know, I understand.
Yeah, also, I thought in the email, there was something in there about meeting at City Hall and
Yes, we will
transportation was
Yeah,
provided.
so what I'm saying is if you wanted to come and either get a ride or carpool, we can do that, but we just need to know who is getting a ride if we haven't already heard from you. We know you're getting a ride, but we don't know for sure from everybody that has said.
Okay.
So we just want to confirm so that we have firm numbers and what vehicle we're taking.
With the time change from the email, I know you said 9 to 2. Is that?
We
still
anticipate being back by 2.
Okay, at 9 o'clock meeting. Thank you.
Am I one of the three on there? Am I one on the three side?
So one of the three?
No.
Okay. Yeah, I've done it before. It's a fun day.
Perfect.
Can I know who the participants are, which of the
I
commissioners are on?
have Luann, Phil, and Tanya.
And I'm on there too. Okay.
Okay, so we have Letty, Tanya, Dave, and Luann.
And Phil.
And Phil.
So 5.
Five.
5
So
to 10. Anyone else? Okay.
How late can we, I would like to go like Dave, I've been before and they're great. I'm just not sure about that date. What is the latest?
The 17th, and it's on your flyer,
No,
Wednesday the
I-
17th.
I
That's
just
when
wanna
we
make sure
need to
that
be
was
able to
correct.
RSVP to that, yeah.
Okay. Do that through Mike?
Yeah, you can let Deb know, because she's taking
Yep.
the,
Okay.
she'll be the one registering all of us, so, but Mike or Deb. Yep.
Before, there was no live music, it was all tapes and things. Is that what the same idea now? It was live
I've heard
now.
it's been different in different years, so I've heard there's
Yeah.
been live music, and then other times there's just tapes and demos, so, yeah.
That's the way it was. I've bet it's been like 10 years.
Yeah, I think it's fluctuated, and I know this year it's in Norwalk, in the past I think it's been in El Monte,
El Monte had it
so it's, yeah.
quite a few times.
If you went 10 years ago, that's probably the last time I went. We will be staying for lunch.
Was it at El Monte?
Yeah, we went to El Monte, we were there for 5 minutes, and then we're like, time to go. We just got here. So,
You were there a long time, I think.
They gave tapes away.
Yeah, I still got some of them.
Tapes or DVDs?
That'll be CD,
Or
I
iPod,
hope, right?
okay.
Or iPod download,
Yeah,
or they give you a coupon for a download.
Yeah, they're CDs.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next item on the agenda, and this is raised the eyebrows of a few people. Renaming the West Covina Senior Center.
Fear not, no macabre agenda here. It has come up in trying to market facilities for rentals. Sometimes the senior center, by virtue of saying just the senior center, has a negative connotation. And there are communities that have community center names, which are community center / senior center. And for marketing purposes for rentals, if you're trying to promote weddings, quinceañeras, birthday parties, etc., to draw in the rental revenue, they would market it as the community center, whatever that name is. Whereas if you're reaching out to Seniors for Congregate Meal Program or programs and services for seniors, it's the senior center. And you use them interchangeably. And for grant purposes, senior center is usually preferred if you're trying to go for one program or another. So it had been requested, and we mulled it around and thought that we would bring it to commission for your input if that's something that you thought would be beneficial or viewed upon in a positive light. There's nothing macabre about it. There's no ulterior motive. It's basically just a marketing tool. So and when I say that, the younger generation of seniors that are coming up, there's seniors that have been renamed as the active, center or active aging. I mean, there's all these different terminologies that are out there now. So it's, the baby boomers don't like the thought of going to the senior center because they view that as negative connotation. So it's just trying to rebrand, and we've done a lot of beautification at the senior center. If you have not been by, it's looking really nice, and we also want to be able to market it in its best light. So I'm amenable either way. the discussion about renaming it. Obviously, we have a naming policy that is included in your packet. And so there's some guidelines that would have to be adhered to if we were looking at doing a naming. One of the things that I was thinking about, and it is in our naming policy, is to potentially do a contest if that's what the commission thought that they would want to do. Ultimately, the council would approve the name, whatever name was recommended or chosen, and was recommended by this body. If that's the will of the commission, ultimately, council has the final say. So I open it up for comments and questions.
Where did this come from, the change? Was it something that was done in-house, or was it comments that was made by the public?
The change of...
changing the name.
Oh, staff had discussed it.
Staff.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
I can vouch for that as well. We have certain issues in our recreation as well. They don't want to feel old, and when they say seniors, they feel like, it's not, and so any senior events or anything, we have to rename it differently so that they can join in, because even just knowing what is the age for seniors, some people think 55 is not, and some people think it's 60, 65, so even that is a broad range, and 55 don't feel like that's, that's old. They think it's still young because they can still move and so forth and dance. And so they did see a change even with another city. I don't remember the city because I know one of my supervisors is in that city in the west. But she did mention when they named it something different, she felt okay to go. She didn't feel. So that is something to consider. And marketing is a big trend. And the people who do come in, I know it's all in the head. So it would make sense, but I don't know if it's going to make, if we do get the senior services, does it, if you remove the word senior, does that, for the grants, make that?
I would not advocate removing senior center from it. I would advocate it
adding
just
another one.
Adding, whether it be community/senior center, and a lot of dedications for buildings used to have that, and then they use it interchangeably however they need to.
I was thinking of the same thing, yeah, community senior.
Yeah, I think it needs to be, keep the differentiation from the actual community centers that we have around, and so people know that this is the senior center as opposed to Cameron or Shadow Oaks or somewhere. But I do like the idea of a contest if we were going to go forward with the naming procedure. Any other comments?
I have a question. On that same idea then, that would then presume that the community center at Cameron is attracting to the over 50 crowd? I mean, if they're against being seen and being associated with a place where older senior type people like Dave and Paul, where they would go and don't want to be there, would they then go to the other community centers? Is that what we're experiencing?
I think what we're experiencing from a programmatic side is that we're trying to maximize time and utilization revenue where we can. We know that the senior center by virtue is not going to make money, but that's why we're trying to supplement by being able to provide regular adult senior programs in the evening, which is traditionally not. Traditionally, even if you had a community center only in a community, your senior center would exist from 8 a.m. to 2, 3 o'clock, and then your adults and children would show up from 3 o'clock on to 10 o'clock. And so
bedtime? Is that the idea?
What's that?
Is that bedtime? Is that the idea?
A discount for the buffet. I'm not really quite sure.
Do we have an over 55 basketball league at the community center?
We do have adult and senior programs.
That's not what I asked. Oh, senior programs at the community center?
Yeah, we have Shadow Oak and Cameron that we run different programs, and so it just depends on what somebody's interested in. And so I don't think that we're not trying to separate in terms of programming. We're not separated. The only thing that really identifies our senior center in terms of a senior center, quote unquote, whether you call that 55, 60, or 65, is the congregate meal program and certain senior clubs and programs that are run during the day there. But we're doing that at Shadow Oak too now. So the congregate meal.
I play on the senior citizens softball team.
Yeah.
55 and over. In fact, I'm the English guy on the team.
I was just
At
gonna say,
55.
they, for sports. when we
I
run
play there,
sports-
Cameron, every Friday, every Monday,
But I
every
was
Friday.
looking at these communities that
To
with
answer-
basketball
Steve, to
courts
answer your
on.
question, I'm sorry, not to cut you off. We don't have a 55 and over league, we've tried that, but we have lots of groups that play pickup basketball that are over 55. They like it not quite as organized, they don't play quite as, not as, just kind of who shows up and who wants to play. We rent, a lot of our stuff is rentals, but we have 3 or 4 groups that are all 55 or older, and we've had men in there, in their 70s. So we have a large group. We do run, we have our Basso League, which is kind of our league. They run 40 and over, not 55 and over, but they run 40 and over. So,
And I
we're
know
open
with
all
sports,
years.
they don't like to call it a senior, like we call like our different divisions, Mighty Might Pee Wee, so.
No, he's right, we call it
we
40 and
call it
over,
40
50
and over. They put
55
a
and over,
age.
life after 50.
age, they don't say senior, because they say 55 and over, 40 and over.
So I have a question. So you're just looking to add a word, community, senior community. Are you looking to name it after a certain person, or because if we're going to name it after a person, I would suggest that we take one of these war heroes off the wall and name them after them before we go to any politician. Are you? Absolutely.
Unfortunately, it can't be anybody living.
Yeah.
That's the naming
Okay, I
policy.
can accommodate that.
And if somebody is deceased, it has to be somebody who has been deceased for more than a year. And as far as what I was thinking, I wasn't thinking any name. I didn't have a name picked out because it's Cortez Park. Naturally, it could be Cortez Senior Community / Senior Center, but opening it up to a contest, definitely, there are people from West Covina in a historical nature that have passed away that have contributed a lot that I don't even know of. So there are people who've lived here for a long time that would be wiser and more knowledgeable than I or my staff. And so I leave it to the commission to decide how they would like to move forward, if they would like to move forward.
And to answer your question too, all of our programs at the senior center aren't senior programs. We offer youth cheer, we have line dancing, which is all ages, so we're just diversifying. We're really just trying to diversify everything we do, and we want to accommodate the community however we can.
Mr. Blackburn.
I don't like the idea of having a contest, and I don't like the idea of having a person named after it. If it's a community service, add a name to it that is whatever you want to add to it, but keep it simple. You don't need to have, in my opinion, I don't think we need to have a contest to find out who we want to name it after, in my opinion.
Mr. Stewart.
There's probably a lot more people in West Covina that know where Cortez Park is as opposed to the senior center. So whether you use the Cortez Park, let's say a senior center at Cortez Park or Cortez Park Senior Center, I would tell them where it's at because they know where Cortez Park is. But kill two birds with one stone.
Yeah, after thinking more about it, I was thinking about that also, and maybe something like Cortez Senior Community Center. Mr. Lewis.
So, just a quick question with regard to marketing. Are you what kind of marketing are we trying to do, or other than quinceañeras and stuff like that? Who are we marketing to?
So in general, just trying to rent, when we're trying to rent the facility on nights and weekends for events. So traditionally, let's just say Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
For example, when we wanted to put together an event, because of timing, scheduling, and capacity of our facilities, maybe the senior center has had availability to hold a youth event. But naturally, the kids are like, no, we're not a senior center, right? It's the negative connotation that they associate with it. Whereas if you said, hey, we're going to go ahead and go to the Cortez Community Center for an event. Oh, okay, yeah, we're good to go. It's a marketing piece that we're finding not only from just trying to hold community events, but to try to also rent and get maximum value for the facility, because it actually is a very nice facility that holds a significant amount of people. So
I have a couple ideas on conceivably how you could accomplish this, and maybe no one will even notice realistically. The senior center is not a small facility. There are 2 rather large rooms that comprise it. So perhaps you have one side as the Cortez Park Community Center or something like that, and have the senior center remain in the very front. That way you maintain the attractiveness to each population or something like that. The other thing that you might want to just consider is naming the rooms within the center something else instead, as opposed to just renaming the whole center. Perhaps there's something attractive about, I don't know, whatever the name of the particular room is, as opposed to the name of the center. Or who knows? You could do. There's some college campuses. I won't name any names. Like my alma mater, for example. They have what's called the Events Center, and it's called the Thunderdome. I mean, but it's interchangeable. So I don't know if that's something that we could conceivably look at, if that made sense. Obviously, that's assuming the commission's even interested in something like that. But, in terms of marketing ideas, I think those might be potentially helpful to that.
And we do currently have some rooms that are named after people. The TV room, it's the McIntyre TV room, because at the point in time when they did that, all the furnishings and whatnot were donated, so, yeah.
I don't know, perhaps marketing that way will, make it somehow more appealable to other people, I don't know.
Can we have two names, Nicole, on it, like the community center, the CCC, and then keep the senior center on the bottom of it too?
Yeah, it would be community center / senior center.
Yeah, like I don't see.
Cities do that.
Yeah, it's like, well, why there would be a problem, because we're not trying to like kick the seniors out, that's always there, but we're just trying to add, just like the Anaheim, Los Angeles, Anaheim Angels, or whatever. All of a sudden there's Los Angeles, and there's Anaheim in there, so I was like, wait a minute. It was just to attract more crowd.
I think we need to look at expanding what the name refers to. And, since it really is a community center as well as a senior center, I think first of all, we need to keep the senior center part of the name. And I think adding the community center, the community as an additional word to center, is a good idea. And if we're going to name it after anything, like I said a moment ago after Commissioner Stewart brought it up, I think keeping the name Cortez is probably, it's keeping with other similar facilities through the city, same type of thing, Shadow Oak, Cameron centers, and people will know where it is. So again, I think the idea of something like Cortez Community Senior Center or Cortez Senior Community Center, I think would be, I think a good suggestion.
Yes, okay. Actually, if you're looking for outside events in there, maybe get the word multi-purpose senior center.
Yeah, I think that by nature of how many rooms it has, we have that.
Well, even if you only have one big room, multi-purpose, that room could be used for a lot of things.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would tell everybody it's available for other things other than seniors.
It's the same thing like us, our commission here, we have community and senior services commission. We deal with community and we deal with senior services too, so it's just in line with that too.
Anyone else? Well, so how should we proceed?
If anybody wants to make a motion on a specific name or how they would like to proceed, if that's what the commission
Well,
wants to do.
I'd like to make a motion to consider the name of Cortez Senior Community Center. Is there a second?
Discussion?
How about Cortez,
Yes.
Cortez Park Community Center?
Cortez Park Cortez Park Senior Community
That's a
Center.
definite destination instead of Cortez.
Okay.
I think if you put senior in front of it, it's alluding that this is only for seniors. I think if you're going to have senior in the name, keep it after. So like Cortez Event Center or Cortez Event and Senior Community Center, so that it's both, not.
Two things. I love simple is also, simple is always the best. If you do add Cortez, you do have to add park, because park in nature, it's all for all ages. So statistically park, that entails for all ages. So it's either Cortez Park Senior, or if you do add senior, if you have community. I do like the slash because it almost differentiates, like it's two different things. So if you add something with the senior, it has the word, and of course, senior should be at the very end so that the main focus is this, so like community / senior center. So just those two things to consider. Adding the community, making it generic enough is also good. But when you do add multi-purpose senior, it's still, the primary thing is the seniors. So when you tell the teens that the multi-purpose senior, all they're gonna see is a senior. So that they know multi-purpose is in generic. So just those two things to consider.
Yeah, I think adding a multi-purpose thing, that makes it a bit longer than needed and would be conducive to people getting used to a change like that. And I really don't think it's needed, but I think adding park is a good idea and senior at the end. So I would think Cortez, Park, Community, and Senior Center, based on what we've been discussing. So I would amend my motion to use the name Cortez, Park, Community, and Senior Center.
Can I ask a question before we proceed? Can we do this? Can we take an item? Has the public been properly notified? Notice
It's been agendized, and so...
to take an action as such? Is this an action item?
It's new business. You can take action.
Okay. Is there a second?
I second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to rename the Senior Center, the Cortez Park Community and Senior Center. Can we have a roll call?
Commissioner Redondo?
Aye.
Commissioner Blackburn?
Aye.
Commissioner Cox?
No.
Commissioner Ginn?
Aye.
Commissioner Kennedy?
Nope.
Commissioner Lewis?
Nope.
Commissioner Pena? Commissioner Stewart?
Yes.
Chair Kaufman?
Yes,
Vice Chair Lopez?
Aye.
I see that 6-3 in favor. Motion passes. Next on the agenda, we have the homeless planning grant.
Sure, so there's no materials to accompany this item, but I did just want to let the commission know that at the end of last year, the city council approved us applying for the homeless planning grant. And so we did apply. We were successful in getting $50,000, and that was based on prior year homeless count. Now, I will make a little asterisk in that comment because we probably should have received more funding than we did. We did find out that last year our entire city was not counted. Apparently there was an issue with recruitment for volunteers, and we did not find out that our whole city was counted until well after the time. It was not done, with malicious intent. It just happened due to the spreading of resources within the LA County on that one particular day. So we did get the $50,000. We are currently working with the COG to hire a consultant to do the homeless plan. And just as ATP for transportation grants and funding happens, and where you need a plan, an ATP plan in order to move forward, that's how the homeless grant plan will work. So the homeless plan moving forward will be submitted to the county around June. Once approved, then we surmise that the Measure H funding that was approved by voters in the last election would start to open for funding. And we don't know what that application process looks like, but in talking to the county, that was the intent with the plan, is that every city that participates, and not every city in LA County participated, but that we would potentially receive funding from that moving forward.
So, is there any action that we need to take then? Do we need to approve the usage of the funds such as?
Not at this time. At this time, I'm just bringing it forward to make sure that the commission is aware of it. And this will segue into the count that we're doing this month, and it will also segue into the community meetings that will have to be scheduled as part of stakeholder input into developing the plan, and you will obviously be involved in that process as well.
Commissioner Redondo?
Can the commission get a copy of what was submitted?
Sure, when it gets finalized, we will definitely be able to give you a copy of that.
Mr. Black?
You had mentioned that we are going to hire a consultant to implement whatever has to be done, is this something that we could do with staff instead of hire a consultant? All I see is we get $50,000, we want to use it, and I don't know, is a consultant $500 or
Yeah,
$5,000?
unfortunately, this is not something that staff has the subject matter expertise in. There is a whole level of engagement, data, metrics that have to be developed. There's collaboration with stakeholders. It's very convoluted, and every city is going to be able to tailor their plan based upon funding. So the base plan at this point, you're looking at about $23,000, $24,000, and then add-ons beyond that, which have to do with what a city can afford or what the city is qualifying as more important than less important. Like, for example, one of the things was getting data on your community's homeless count. Well, we already get that data from the loss account annually, so I don't know that that would be a high priority, right? So we're measuring it based on what our needs are within our community.
I'm a little bit slow. Did you say it was $23,000 or $24,000 for?
The base plan.
Okay, no.
To have that
Not very
developed.
bright. So what is the base plan? What does a consultant charge?
Sure, so the particular consultant for this is charging, that's what the consultant is charging, the cost. $23,000 to do a basic plan. So beyond that, it will depend on what we insert for add-ons, so to speak. Change orders, if you will, in the world of construction. But we're going to build it in. So we'd be building in, and they've already gone to RFP, and we've already interviewed some of the consultants, and as they've brought more consultants on board, and I want to say there's 8 cities, there's either 8 or 10 cities in the San Gabriel Valley that have joined forces to try to pool resources because they're finding out that it's more expensive than I think they initially anticipated.
So if we have a $50,000 grant, we're spending half of that for the consultant.
So you're gonna spend all of it?
We're going to spend a significant portion.
Spend all of it.
Yeah.
You know how it works around here.
Yeah.
You get a grant for 50 grand, and the consultant eats it up, and the homeless get left nothing.
No, but
Like always,
what I need to articulate is that the $50,000 that was given to us was not given to us to do programming with. It's the money is tied up in creating the plan. Or there was potentially money to do outreach meetings, but with this funding, the consultant, as it's laid out, will have outreach meetings built in, so we're not going to have to separate that pool of money.
So
We could.
this money is to figure out what we're going to do, then there'll be other funds in the future to actually pay for what we decide and what the consultant recommends we do.
Correct, so this $50,000 is to create the plan, and then moving forward, the county will most likely open it up as they did with Measure A funding, and cities will be encouraged to apply, and that's how you will get a pool of money.
Okay.
That is what we anticipate, and that's what we've been told in not so many amount of words, that would probably be how it works.
And we get a pool of money, and then we spend it on what, more consultants?
No,
No?
no. The city is not looking at hiring more consultants to do homelessness. There is a potential to have to hire staff to coordinate and have to deal with some of the issues that we're dealing with, but we're hoping to directly funnel the money into whatever the plan allocates and what they show through our SWOT analysis. I mean, we know a weakness is housing, right? I think we can all say that in San Gabriel Valley in general. We don't have a permanent shelter, so we know that that's an issue. But we also face NIMBY, not in my backyard. So that's being faced in every community in San Gabriel Valley and beyond.
It's every community in Southern California,
Yeah.
actually.
So is the 23,000 a not to exceed dollar amount, or is it just a retainer of 23,000, it can go all the way up to 50,000? If it's not to exceed, where's the rest of the money going?
Yeah, no, it's not about not to exceed that. Like I said, the basic plan is showing,
It could be higher.
it could be high, right? So what we have, in the matrix that we've looked at already, it's already right up to the $50,000 because in their initial RFP, what they had told cities they guesstimated would be the cost for these add-ons are coming back higher, of course, because this is the nature of.
You know, I have a quick question. If we are working with a consultant that is working with 10 other cities, that consultant working with those 10 cities will make $500,000 in fees minimum?
No, so what happened was because there were 8 or 10 cities, there's actually more than one consultant because the consultant cannot possibly take on 8 or 10 cities. And there's already discussion, we have a meeting coming up next week, I believe, to discuss how this is all gonna lay out, because when you have 8 cities, obviously my concern for the city of West Covina is that we don't get a cookie cutter plan, number one. And number two, that the consultant that we end up dealing with understands what our needs are, but also, and is creating the customized plan that we need, but also working with our local cities, our surrounding cities, and also cities that partner with us on, such as like the MET program. So Glendora doesn't border us, but Glendora is a partner. So
have we used a consultant in the past when we've received grant money?
have we received consultants
Well,
through the
have we
city?
had to
I'm
hire a
sure.
consultant as we've done this year, as we're going to do this year?
For specific homelessness, or no, we have not hired a consultant for homelessness. That in the 3 years that I've been here. Maybe in past years, way back, but to my knowledge, we've never had the homeless epidemic, the crisis that we've had with issues in Southern California.
But we received grant money.
For homelessness? I'm not aware of grant money that we received for homelessness. We have funding through CDBG that go out to service providers for homeless services. That is true. We've received housing funds, but that's a whole separate thing. But not specific county grant funding. This is the first time we're receiving it.
Will the commission have the ability to look at the criteria for the selection of the consultant, or is it just we're here to let you know and the community just deals with the selection that is chosen?
No, we partnered with the COG for the city staff to work with the COG to then finalize. So they've already selected one consultant and they were bringing on 1 or 2 more consultants. So there's no availability based on time because the truncated timetable that the county gave us, we already had to scratch and claw to move the calendar back a little bit because cities were like, we can't, with holidays coming up, how can we, not even with the holidays, but just the timing of people's council meetings. Some people don't have the council meetings in the same weeks, and so we were trying to vet everything out. Yes. I'm sorry.
Well, my concern is, I know we got the $50,000 grant, and from my experience with working sometimes with contractors, obviously sometimes they go way over. Now, are you gonna stipulate that 50,000 is the max that they will go to make sure that they complete the project? They're not gonna say, well, 10,000 more and try to find that money and pay. I just want to make sure that
In the
they
scope
complete
of
the project.
services, in the scope of services in this, there is a performance completion. There is a deliverable. The deliverable is a completed plan to the county. So, and it has to be by the deadline because the county is requiring the deadline of the plan.
Are they penalized if they don't meet that deadline?
No, but they're not going to get paid. I guess that would be the penalty. Yeah, they're not.
Okay.
No, we don't pay them until.
Just make sure.
Yeah.
I would assume that all those requirements were in the RFP.
Yes.
I think it would be helpful if we saw that kind of document in advance.
Yeah, and unfortunately, again, we had to turn around and go to council quite quickly because we had to get a letter for an MOU with the COG because in order for us, the city, just from one individual city trying to put out an RFP process, their timetable was going to be virtually impossible to meet. So by expediting it and moving forward, and so the COG vetted that out, and that would be why our partnership and our membership in the COG is so that they have a homeless planning coordinator who's vetting all that out.
Yeah, well, I can understand that the timing situation, but even just for meeting tonight, it would have been, I think, helpful.
Well, I think the problem is they're still vetting things out with the contractors. So to give you something, I don't have something concrete except for the original grant that we received, which has already gone to council. I can certainly send that to everybody if everybody would like a copy of what we have.
How many responses did we get to the RFP?
How many responses did the COG get to the RFP?
Well, what was it?
The city didn't send out an RFP.
Okay, it was the COG did one for all
did.
the cities.
The COG sent out an RFP to service providers. So there were some that were vetted because obviously this is a niche plan. This isn't just like a construction project.
Yeah.
So.
But you said there were 2 or 3 contractors, consultants involved, so were there I assume then there were at least those 3 responses.
Yes, and I can get you more information. I just received an email today. That's why I'm saying I think there's 2 more, because there was an update. Because based on the feedback from the participating 8 or 10 cities, we wanted to make sure that we got another consultant or 2. And so they were bringing on somebody else. And so that's what I'm saying. It's still a work in progress. It still hasn't been completed.
And we don't have a say-so as to which of those will be chosen.
That's what we're still vetting out, because we as the city have concerns on who we get to choose for as a consultant.
Yeah, okay.
Nicole?
Yes.
Just curious, because I know Paul asked this question, I didn't hear an answer. So what are the base elements of this basic plan?
I don't have that in front of me. Okay. I can send everybody out the base plan.
So, I mean, like, from an elemental perspective, are we talking about, you know, development of a homeless shelter versus food versus clothing versus, you know, job placement? What are we talking about?
No, it's basically, the basic plan pretty much says, here's your community, this is your makeup, this is your demographics, these are your community partners who we would encourage you to reach out and form partnerships, and here are your, and they don't do a SWOT analysis as part of the basic plan, which I don't agree with, because I think that's kind of a basic, this is base level, start with your SWOT analysis, but that's not something that is.
I mean, frankly, that doesn't make any sense considering our CDBG funding program and all those mechanisms that are already in place at the federal level. It seems like a waste of time and money.
I'm not going to argue with you.
Well, I mean, ultimately, I think if that's what the base plan is, then what are we doing? I mean, it seems like we're just throwing good money after bad on a base plan that's not really giving us anything that we don't already know. Well, the other thing, okay, so if we're going to go above and beyond the $23,000, which I assume we're going to, because that's the only thing that makes any sense, because obviously we want to get this funding that was approved by the voters. So ultimately, what are we going to do beyond that? I assume we're probably going to seek something in the realm of trying to figure out where to place a homeless shelter. Good luck in an infill development community such as West Covina that has no infill development candidates, considering that all of the infill development candidates have already been replaced with new communities. That's the bottom line. I don't understand what is the purpose of all of this. I mean, I'm glad the voters, you know, have a heart, but ultimately, you know, from my perspective, how is this money going to be effectively utilized at the local level, particularly at our local level? That's my biggest concern, because unless we're going in and we're tearing people out of their homes through eminent domain to put in a homeless shelter, I don't really see how any of this is actually going to result in any net benefit to the homeless population in this city.
So to answer your question about what other priorities we put in there, SWOT analysis obviously was important to me.
Could you explain what a SWOT analysis is?
Sure, strengths, weakness, opportunities, and threats. So it's typically something that's done in a business plan, strategy plan, and in order to understand what our issues are in West Covina, I think on the staff level we have a pretty good understanding of what our issues are, but not necessarily from a residential or business or a stakeholder understanding do they have that. So SWOT analysis, community engagement and meetings. So basically they would be facilitating the meetings and going out and presenting, providing education and training pieces. And in addition, talking about sheltering, talking about land use and zoning. So those were some key things that we wanted to address. And they have some duplicate things that would be confusing because they talk about different trainings. And so we're trying to get clarification. If we do this add-on that costs $2,500 or $5,000, what does that mean? Because over here, you're showing 2 other education and training pieces. So are those the same? Are they different? How do they differ? Because I don't understand. We are trying to make sure that we're maximizing our money, but also I don't need them to do a homeless count. I get a homeless count, so I'm not going to pay for that add-on. So we're going through, and I think it's it is
that's the problem. I mean, this is a county-specific program, and yet the county already has these resources. So it doesn't make any sense. I mean, ultimately, you know, we're gonna get this money, and frankly, the best way we can use it is if we adopt the Las Vegas plan. Here's a bus ticket.
Well, unfortunately, legally, we can't do that.
No,
but-
well, I understand,
Yeah.
but I mean, that's.
So to clarify with you, I agree in concept that the money is basically to create a plan to get more money, right? Do I think it's the best way we're spending the money? No, but there's not a plan from the county to say that you don't have to use this $50,000, you can then just use it for programming and services for homeless. That's not how it's being drilled down. So unfortunately, that it is what it is in terms of the funding mechanism, and so we're trying to put forth the best plan that we can with making sure that we don't necessarily need to use all the funding, because that wouldn't be prudent, but if it makes sense to get the best plan to use the full $50,000, and again, the money was based on what the count was. So some cities got less, some cities only got $25,000, some cities got more, so it just depends.
Well, as apathetic as it might sound, I think everyone on this commission should question whether or not we should even care about this money. We should even care about this plan to begin with, because it really doesn't matter. Frankly, we already have duplicative resources on this. We already have data on all of this. So what is the point? I'm glad that, you know, I'm glad, you know, that the city staff is providing us information on this, but, you know, ultimately, it's just telling us that we're spending money on something we already know about.
Well, but I would
Great.
tell you, what I would tell you is that to not have the plan, to not have the document, jeopardizes future funding from the county for homeless programs and services. I can tell you that from sitting in meeting after meeting. I'm just, and I completely agree that it seems like, it seems duplicitous and it seems like we're doing double work. However, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't lay that out before the commission and the council.
I certainly understand that, but ultimately, as a practical matter, it's a complete waste.
And I will tell you, to follow up on that, the county was having a meeting this morning in downtown LA to discuss a measure, an initiative from the Homeless Initiative that was talking about funding that went to non-county police departments, but we did not end up getting that grant because we did not seek the funding, because it actually was a little bit more convoluted and it did not allow for us to get the resources that would have truly benefited what we need to do on the ground from a public safety perspective.
I have just a quick question. When we have this consultant that's going to come up with a plan, does that plan need to be updated every year?
No, to my understanding, it would be a document that I probably will want to revisit in 5 to 10 years, but not every year. It doesn't need to be updated.
You're sure?
No, I'm not sure. I'm surmising from plans that we've done for other
I'm like
things.
Commissioner Lewis. I just see so many things that. What happens if they come back next year and they say, you know, we've got some new rules, regulations, and what we need to do, we need to come up with another plan. So here's $75,000 this year. Please come up with another plan.
And I think
sorry.
at that point we would be saying, I think we'll opt for an amendment, not to do an entire plan, but maybe we'll do an amendment. I mean, at that point, I think that staff will be well enough engaged that I think we can handle that at that point.
I do understand both sides of the party, and I understand that there are times when we have to do things or we receive things that doesn't make sense because our own people can do it, and you know, but I understand on her end, there is a grant, it's free money to, well, I know it's not free money, but
Taxpayers.
yeah, but it's a grant that is supposed to be used for a certain thing with, it creates a legitimacy, like when you have something that is compared to like if they were to create something for the homeless, because they would, hopefully they are at that level of knowledge and so forth that can help us get future grants and to create all that. So I do,
we're supposed to be mandated to have this money anyway pursuant to the measure. So it's basically saying, oh, please give me the money that I'm paying. Thank you so much. No, that's ridiculous. And that's fundamentally the program that we've adopted for ourselves.
But it's all citywide, and I'm pretty sure I mean, that's definitely, that 50,000 is definitely only for,
It's only
it
for the
has to be only for that. So there's really nothing much we
It
can do.
was for the
anyway.
grant and to provide community outreach to write the grant, so stakeholder input, et cetera, which will be part of consulting.
Because there's nothing else we can do.
Commissioner Stewart?
You mentioned each city gets the grant according to their population. From what I can see is the one that gets 25,000 is going to end up with exactly the same thing we got for half the price.
No, not based on the deliverables. I can tell you there will be more detail, and to be honest, I feel bad for the people who are only getting the 25,000 that would have to supplement wanting more, because to me, the 50,000 is what the baseline should be.
What the baseline should be?
What it should be.
Yeah.
Because I think those are just core factors that if I'm having you write a plan, I need the basic information that will help me better understand where to provide programs and services and where I'm lacking. And to do that, you would have to spend more money.
Sure, Donna?
I would just hope that the city, when you're picking this consultant and you're laying down the guidelines of what you'd like to see in this initial plan, which sounds more like generic information that you can get off of, anybody can go on a website and get it. I'll give you an example. City Data, who pulls data from 10 state, federal agencies, and it's updated monthly and quarterly, and it gives you all the demographics of your city, right down to income levels. Everything includes the census, but it also includes these other entities like DMV, and that's data that's readily available. If they're just going to regurgitate information, that's a waste of money. I would think that as we're laying down the outline, we should be able to tell the consultant, this is what we want in this base plan, not here's the money, we'll take whatever you give us.
Yeah,
It'd be nice to see what they're going to include, because it's really hard to discuss something blind.
Right, well, and when all of this is finalized, when they've tweaked whatever the add-on services will be, I will be sure to share that information with the commission. Right now, like I said, it's still a work in progress, and I think that some of this is uncharted territory, and I don't want to say for the COG, because the homeless coordinator for the COG has had years of experience with dealing with homeless services and programs, used to work for the city of Pomona. However, I just think that with the Measure H funding, there is a little bit of put the cart before the horse with Measure H in terms of the voters approved it, but they're all still trying to figure out how everything works together. So the intentions are there, the money is there, but now how it actually trickles down to the communities that actually need it and are fighting the homelessness issue, that remains to be seen still.
Do we know their success rate? I mean, have you been to Pomona?
Yes,
Not,
of course.
not a
And
great
they're
example of
building-
success.
Well, and they're building a homeless shelter because there obviously has been litigation and there's been issues that have occurred. And I believe that they ended up purchasing it in April, and I'm not sure when they break ground, but there are successes and failures, and I think a lot of our communities on this issue, so.
So we're spending money to get a plan, to get money, to do projects with no background on success.
Commissioner?
And that's tying in with what Luann was asking is, have these consultants worked with other cities?
Yes, one of the consultants has worked with the city of San Diego. I'm not sure about the other two that were just brought on, because like I said, there was an email that just came across today.
And then also, what's the time period that, they're going to be working on this?
So the time period is now through June. We have the deliverable of providing the plan to the county in June, so we will be reaching out, scheduling community meetings as soon as we get a consultant on board. So we expect by the end of this month to have it all solidified and moving forward.
So one last question. So I'm glad that you're letting us know, but what is the action for commission? Just a nice FYI, or what are we supposed to do with this now?
The action is to provide you with the information. If you would like me to bring back if the commission is consensus for me to bring back the report, I can certainly do that with the deliverables and showing you. And anything that I can run by in terms of approval, I can certainly do that, but I think we're going to miss time frames because our next meeting is in March, and we would have already made decisions with the consultant and the COG.
So maybe a special meeting or email?
Yeah, who's making that decision?
Who's making what decision?
The decision has to be made before our next meeting, that you just mentioned.
Right. we articulated to the COG that we had concerns on how the consultant would be chosen. So let's say that we have, let's just say for sake of conversation, there's 10 cities and 2 consultants. What if I like consultant A better than I like consultant B? Is it going to be a blind draw, or do we get say? We're still working on that because we're having conference calls with the other cities who are on this interview panel to decide what ends up happening. But ultimately, we put it in the COG's hands because it was a faster process for the RFP and to vet things out.
So basically, we're just being given this information, and there's really nothing that we were able to do.
There's nothing you can do at this moment in time, except for I will provide you with more information as it becomes available to me.
Commissioner White.
I wondered if any of the commissioners would like to start a consulting business.
That was my next question, that's why I raised my hand, because I was gonna say, how many consultants are there statistically, and where do you pull them from, or how do you get them, or, you know, just...
Yeah, so there's some service providers that are out there that are doing services now, like such as Union Station, for example. Some service providers are consultants, private consultants that are going around developing plans nationwide. Some are specific to California, and there were a handful of them that we saw at a meeting in terms of the materials from them. I'm sure there's more. I think that the COG was trying to vet it out and to really give us recommendations on tried and true who they were narrowing down to process the RFP. They posted their RFP on their website. So there was a process that they went through, and again, it was a fast timetable because of the turnaround by the county.
Okay, well, anyone else? So there's nothing for us to do at this point, but I for one would like to see the documentation that he described, so it can be sent out to members of the commission. So that takes us to the next item, new business, item 5, the homeless count.
So just want to remind everybody, and you have the flyer with the detailed information if you would like to volunteer. Tuesday, January 23rd at 8 p.m. we will be meeting at Cameron Community Center, and that will be the point of deployment. So we will meet there, and then from there we will have our assignments in terms of where we will be in a grid within the community. And this is, you know, on this flyer, it's interesting because this is every January we embark on a 3-day mission, but it's really a 1-day mission in the city of West Covina, and typically it's a 1-day mission in communities to get the count. So we don't use data from pre or post, it's whatever we go out and count at that particular time. So usually it's a couple hours, and depending upon the level of resources, it could be longer. I've done counts until midnight, so it just really depends on what we get. My feedback from Priscilla, and you can correct me, is that we've gotten a lot of people that have called and signed up and already interested in doing it. We did have a snafu on the county's website. It listed the Cameron Community Center on their map, but it didn't actually list us as a site on the side, so I think people were getting a little confused. But people just called directly and spoke to Priscilla, and they're making, they've RSVP'd with her to come and count. So depending upon, again, how many people we have will determine how long it is, but my goal is to get the entire city canvassed and counted, and you know, we have resources from community members, as well as we had a planning session here at the city with other agencies, and we went over different maps of hot spots of where we know homeless are congregating, so that we can use our resources more effectively that evening and go out and count accordingly.
Any comments?
I think we should, is there a way that you can make a suggestion to have them do the, I've done the count several times. 8 o'clock, you're done by 10, you don't get a good count because most of the homeless congregate after 10, 11 o'clock.
I have made that recommendation
really
for,
low.
how many years is this? 10 years? I've made this recommendation for 10 years, and the count continues to start at 8 o'clock. Now, we could, if we had the resources from a staffing perspective to mobilize, to plan and coordinate the count, we could probably push it back, but this is when the county sends out their reps.
Anyone else?
Yeah.
Glenn had something.
Oh, absolutely. First of all, I've done this count since the day it started. It's a joke, okay? It's a damn joke. Okay, you go out 8 o'clock at night, you ain't gonna count nobody. It's funny thing is, I know where every damn homeless person is. I've done this patrol for years. Okay, the funny thing is, we go out 8 o'clock at night. Well, gee, we can't find them all of a sudden. Why is that? You know, you need to be proficient. This thing needs to be done in a day. Time, not at night. Why are we going out at night? I've asked this question for what, 17 years? And I get no answer.
The consultant will let us know.
Well, yeah. So, what is it going to take to do it in the daytime?
Well, the theory is going at night is when they're bedded down and you will find them in their encampments. But my argument is that you would do that later in the evening, not at 8 o'clock. Because at 8 o'clock, they're still rummaging around and they're still going about. So they're not bedded down.
What's wrong with 10 o'clock in the morning, 8 o'clock in the morning?
I'm not sure, but at night, aren't they in shelters, so they can count the shelters too? They don't want everybody on the street. Correct me if I'm wrong.
That is also the case.
Yeah, they don't want everybody on the street. They don't want everybody out. So everybody goes to the shelters and they want to count who's not in the shelter.
So
wait. What shelter is this?
So let me answer that. He is partially correct. So there's part of the evening count is because obviously at nighttime, the people that are in the shelter are in for the night, right? So they get an in-shelter count, and then they get a not in shelter count, and then they do like an individual count, an encampment, whether they're in vehicles, etc. So they break out the data as such. So at the evening hour, if you came at 10 o'clock, you would not catch as many homeless, particularly in those locations. I mean, you wouldn't be able to count a homeless person just walking down the street. How would I know if that's a random resident or a homeless person? Can't just say that a shopping cart qualifies that, right? So that's why we wouldn't do it like at that particular, but early morning, 5 a.m., 4 a.m., potentially. I think the issue from the county's perspective is resources. People don't want to come out at 4 a.m. to go count. Now, would I tell you, have they asked? I don't know. But I know that I have given feedback year after year and said we need to do it later in the evening. So I'm saying 11, 12 o'clock would be better than 8 o'clock. But again, it's potentially a resource issue is what I've been told. Well, not too.
Well, because, you know, these so-called shelters, okay? We all know there's no damn homeless on Montezuma Drive, okay? You send everybody up to South Hills, there ain't no homeless up there, okay? We know they're all behind Bonds. We know they're off Walnut Auto Park. We know they're out behind Shoe City. We know they're up behind $3.99 Pizza. Damn, if you go behind $3.99 Pizza, the whole hill is an encampment, okay? But you don't send anybody up there at night. That's all, that's why I say this whole thing's a joke. Just my opinion.
How do you really feel?
We have complete communities set up where it's like 30 families laid out. We never go there, never count them.
Any other comments? That concludes new business, and now old business item 6, update on the West Covina Municipal Pool.
So I'm going to turn that over to Mike. He can give you an update on where we're at and what's going on.
Okay. I'm not sure if you guys are asking information about the old pool or what's coming with the new pool, so I'll fill you in a little bit on both. Currently our pool, it is the pool that we share with the district. It is operational. We're doing what we can to keep it running. It is at the end of its life. The high schools are using it for polo and swimming, but you know, it's questionable. You know, keeping it running on a daily basis, you know, what could happen? You know, the rain could shut it off, and then we're down for a week because you know, once it shuts down, getting it back up and running is difficult. So that's where the pool stands now. They will use the pool through May for their seasons, and then after that, we'll get with the district and we'll decide, you know, if we're going to drain it or what we're going to do there. As far as new pool, they're in the design process. I believe they're taking something to their board tonight to approve, you know, renderings and where they're going to move forward from there. Construction is scheduled to start in August of 18 and be completed by August of 2019. So their goal is to be done before they go back to school in 2019. It will be a 50-meter pool with a bulkhead. There will be a shallow area in that pool. Other than that, we gave our input. You know, we were invited to a meeting and we gave our input on what we'd like to see at the pool. Whether that's incorporated or not, we won't know until we see the renderings, and hopefully we'll see those shortly. Not sure if you have any other questions, if that touches all bases.
Has a contract been let yet?
For the district's contract, I'm not sure. I don't think so, no. I think they'll go the design and then they'll go find the contractor.
Well, you gave a start date and a finish date, that's
From the district, I mean, that's what they're anticipating, but until they accept the design, I don't think they can go to the contract until they get the design. So.
There's no contract yet, I said on the oversight
Yeah.
committee, there's no contract yet, design hasn't been approved yet.
So the start
proposed
date
date's
and
only
finish
been-
date is a wish
Proposed.
list
Mhm.
proposal?
Yes, yes.
Any other questions?
The school district had an agreement with the city to share expenses, share things of that sort. I was under the understanding that the city was paid off for their portion of of their spares or something of that nature. Is it the
There
maintenance or?
was a settlement agreement when we decided to move away from using the pool based on issues that we were having and the unreliability of the pool. We worked out an agreement with the city that they still pay for the maintenance, so now they have assumed all maintenance, and we will still maintain for the end of the fiscal year for the lighting, and I believe it's the lighting at the Edgewood track, in addition to the tennis courts at West Covina High School. So the city still pays for that, and that was under the joint use agreement terms.
And that will terminate when?
And that will terminate, I believe it's at the end of this year.
This year,
The
June?
pool contract was.
It's all rolled into that, yeah. So it's at the end of this year.
This year, June, meaning?
This year in June, yes, I believe so. And then moving forward, they've assumed all liability and responsibility for the cost of the maintenance of the pool.
Will there be a summer pool program this summer?
No, there will not be, no.
Once the pool is completed, will it be available for city use, for summer programs or whatever?
So the goal and the hope is that we will be able to resume the
Goal and hope of
the city. My understanding is that my understanding from the school district is that their hope is that we would be able to resume doing lessons. Whether that means we have some joint use agreement again, or whether or not we have to rent the pool from the school district, we don't know yet. But what will affect it is the design of the pool. Ultimately, if the design of the pool does not enable us to provide lessons like a big enough shallow end, then it won't matter because we'll be restricted and won't be able to provide lessons. So it's going to really be hinged on that, and ultimately the school district's desire to move back into a partnership or agreement of some kind. Like I said, whether that's rental or joint use, we don't know.
And that decision is up to the school district alone.
Correct.
So as to whether it'll be city, and will it be limited to only those, will it be the entire city, surrounding districts, surrounding communities, or just people who live in the school district who paid for it?
It will be up to the school board at that time.
We don't have that information yet,
Yeah, you're close to the real. I have no idea even how much it's going to cost.
It's beginning stages. A pool that size is going to cost a lot more than what the city and the district have been used to. Cost is going to be exponentially bigger. I think they are going to have
$500,000.
What's that?
$500,000.
I can't even begin. I mean,
I don't know because they have
$5 million.
I don't know because there are some. I know in the initial design there were potentially some solar panels where they were looking at putting up to help with a generation of
Well, that would
energy
be
costs.
maintenance. I'm talking about the specific cost.
Oh, the actual cost to build. I think they're looking at an $11 million aquatic center.
I thought it was 14, not sure, but in that range.
Yeah.
I thought it was 14 million is what they're looking to put into it, and the maintenance costs and all that. Like I said, I think the utilities will go up. I think, and what we saw, and please don't hold us to this, the gas bill would be what we pay for the complete maintenance of the pool now. That would be just the gas bill.
The gas to heat it?
To heat it.
Oh my. Is it heated now?
It is heated now, yes.
I think I know.
Yeah, it is heated now. So I think that.
But because of the new size and depth.
Yeah, when you go, I'm not.
But that doesn't come from bond money. That comes from
the district will have to
out
pay
of the
that.
kids.
Yeah, the district or whoever. So I believe they're going to open it up. I believe they're going to have to let more people in there. There's going to be alternative programming. What that's going to be, that's still all up in the air. Obviously, learning to swim is.
Will we have any input as to fees, or will the city be asked to help subsidize that?
city is being asked to help subsidize in terms of fees for the swim program. Would you
Just
have-
summer, right? Because I assume that it's not available for use during the
Yeah.
school.
Yeah, and they haven't said if for some reason we weren't able to move forward with the swim program, a Learn to Swim program, they have not said whether or not they're willing to open it up to the community, but I don't foresee that. I foresee them opening it up more time to their swim programs and their water polo,
And that's it.
and potentially renters.
And renters, you mean like
Like
the city
facility-
would be a renter?
If the city, yeah, the city or another school that doesn't have a aquatic
Oh,
center.
certainly.
Yeah,
Yeah.
club programs, et cetera.
It hasn't been decided yet.
And Commissioner O'Donnell.
So on that note, the residents in that area of California Elementary participate in a private pool, Bainbridge pool. So we pay to have access to that pool. And Bainbridge is willing to open up their pool for summer swim lessons, not open swim, but summer swim lessons during the summer so that our kids don't have to forego 2 summers of no swim lessons. So they would like to come.
And I think Mike.
I've been to Bainbridge.
It's not big.
No. I've seen the pool. I've been there. You know, essentially that's like, it's just a big home pool. You know, so for the city to go in, deal with the county, get it approved, and deal with that, it'd be very, very difficult. And that's an older pool as well. So I haven't seen it in a number of years, within the last 3.
They just renovated it.
Oh, they did?
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
I
the
know
whole
that.
thing's been redone, resurfaced.
We would have to look
Drained
at-
and resurfaced and everything.
We would have to look at that, but currently we have no aquatic staff. We have, you know, our programs ended last summer. We have no lifeguards. We have nothing. You know, that's all going to be a big piece of what happens moving forward.
So is the city interested in looking at it at least?
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't have to be a yes, but at least take a look at it.
I'm interested in hearing and seeing what they have going on but what if we were going to do something, we would have to make it a 2-year program because there's no way that we could implement the program to then have to cancel it again next year.
Right.
That wouldn't be cost effective for the city as well. And it wouldn't be fair to the employees that we're trying to hire on seasonally and then have to, you know, have them find somewhere else to go again.
Are there any other swimming pools in West Covina? And I mean, South Hills doesn't. Covina High School has a pool. And I don't know if is Covina Park still at the plunge?
They
Is
do.
it still
The
there?
plunge is there.
And it's still open
Yes.
for that?
Yeah.
Why YMCA?
The YMCA is no longer in Covina. Their pool's closed. Local cities, obviously we'll provide that information to our residents so they have an alternative. That's what we did last summer. That's what we'll do this summer. We'll let them know where there are programs so they do have a place to go. Bainbridge, if you can let me know who the homeowner association is or who I need to contact to reach that out. I mean, you know, of course we want to explore all options.
This is sort of satellite to the pool conversation, but I listened to the city council meeting last night and there was some superficial discussion about the 4th of July show. Has that been canceled then now?
So last night, the council approved to bring back all special events. So the vote was to bring back special events and voted for $150,000 to be earmarked, to be brought back from fund balance to do the special events. We are reaching out to the school district because obviously with Edgewood being completed on the track, that limits our options for 4th of July celebration there. In addition.
What do you mean by that? Limit, you mean that they just won't let us sit on the track and the field?
They won't let us be on the track, and so we would only be able to be in the bleachers and potentially.
Bleachers at?
Bleachers
Edgewood
at
has
Edgewood.
no bleachers.
Or not,
Edgewood
I'm
doesn't
sorry,
have-
not, yeah.
So they're talking about moving it to
So,
West Covina High School?
We had hoped that that would be an alternative because they were supposed to be working on the bleachers the previous year, but it turns out they actually have a project going in to renovate the bleachers, which is tonight at their board meeting that they're discussing an award for contract. So that will not be an option, it looks like, but we are reaching out to them to find out, okay, so if we can't use Edgewood track, what are our options? So we're exhausting all of that because if ultimately we don't have a space big enough with a fallout zone and a crowd area and parking considerations, then it would be very difficult to hold an actual fireworks show. However, what the council had asked is if that would be primary, and if that doesn't work out, they're looking at wanting to do a parade in the morning, a community parade on 4th of July.
And no firework show or
And
anything?
potentially not, depending upon what we have going on.
So
for
the
location.
use of the track and the field at Edgewood is no? Because I'm just going for what we did in 2007
Right.
when the. when
They're not
West
gonna let,
Covina
they're not
was
gonna let us
open.
on the artificial turf,
Right,
which is the same thing that they said at West Covina High School when we had asked to use it,
right.
so. So we still have the area for the fallout zone that we could put off fireworks, but then we would have to be able to use the rest of the facility, and if they already have pre-construction things going on at the pool potentially in July, then that might be an issue because the pool area is also considered a fallout. So,
So we have the money and no place to use it.
for 4th of July, but we have the money for other special events, including the Easter egg hunt, which we will be having.
Easter egg or?
Oh no, the Easter egg.
egg contest.
Yeah, the Easter egg.
According to our.
It could be the Passover egg.
It could be. We could have one, at one side it'll be Passover and the other side it'll be Easter.
Yeah. Since we're sort of on the topic, with the track and field, because the track, especially for my wife and I, this is much more personal than would have otherwise been done at this meeting, but we used to use the track at Edgewood a lot to walk, especially in the evening. Do you know whether or not that's going to be open to the public?
My understanding is that it will be open during the evening and on weekends, but be closed by 10 p.m. And I believe they said opening at maybe 10 a.m. Maybe I'm wrong about that, so maybe I'm just inverting my a.m. versus p.m. But it'll be in the morning, and then it'll be closed during the weekdays by the janitor who is last leaving, and the anticipated time is 10 p.m. during the night.
So there will be no security or anything else?
There
No
will be
issues as far as the city's concerned about costs? Or are those going
Not
to
at
be?
this point. The school district has talked about there will be somebody there basically in the first few months, especially to make sure that rules and regulations are being followed, but they don't perceive any issues from people who are
Strollers,
walking
roller
and using the
skating,
track.
skateboards?
Yeah, you don't typically see that on those particular tracks, however, what you see, but what the issues that you do see are people coming in and not having a field use permit and coming in with, metal cleats and things like that, and so they're trying to avoid that.
Yeah, so is the center field going to be used for soccer?
Mhm.
I mean, organized soccer
Yes,
programs?
yes,
Again, no cost to the city, right?
correct.
Or use fees or anything?
Yep. And as such, the school district schedules their own facilities for youth sports and other sports. We don't have those scheduling
The
responsibilities.
thing that you might see is the track will not be as available as much as usual because I have a feeling they're gonna have a lot more scheduled there. Because they'll be having soccer and track. They'll be having soccer and track at times where 5 o'clock you'd go walk the track at night, it would be available. They might be having soccer or a track meet going
Yeah,
on.
but I'm talking non-education uses. You're saying that if a track and field team is going to practice at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, then it'll probably be shut down.
Right.
Soccer team is going to be using that, then it would be shut down. Summertime's no school, it's available carte blanche on and is this part of the sports council authority, or is it strictly going to be handled through the school
The
district?
school district has all of their facilities. We only schedule our own. That changed years ago.
Yeah, it's been quite some time.
Interesting. Any other comments or questions?
I'm going to just ask one more question, and it's not on here, and it's not an ad hoc, and it's not a report, and it's not an item to be agendized, so I'll just ask it now. Last night, Mr. Wu talked about an idea that he has regarding the usage of the lakes center area as a performing arts type center. He seemed to believe that he has buy-in from all of the elementary schools in West Covina, all of the high schools in West Covina, all of the high schools and middle schools, as far as doing their school programs in that facility. Is that going to happen, and if so,
We reached out to high schools during Christmas time to ask them if they wanted to perform their choirs, and that was in front of the Edwards Theater where the performances in the past had happened in the little courtyard there. And initially there were some that responded that they were interested, and then because of timing and vacation schedules, they dropped out. So my understanding is that Councilman Wu has communicated to some of the stakeholders, as well as we've communicated to the district that'll be something that we're looking to do ongoing moving forward to open it up. The property owner is amenable to that, and they just need to let us know when they would like to perform, but it's not amplified sound, it's basically acoustic. And so far, we haven't started off with any schedules for this year, but if we get anybody that will plan on performing, we would promote that as we do other community programs and events. But
Yeah, my 10-year-old grandson, I will make this a personal announcement. My 10-year-old grandson is starting playing the trombone this year, and they had their first concert just before the holidays. And they had it at the San Dimas Performing Arts Center. And that's over 700 seating. They had 700 people sitting there. So I presume that the idea of the, I don't know how it's multi-million-dollar Performing Arts Center at West Covina High School is still on track, and that and it will be, so this idea of these performing arts at the lakes is truly just a pipe dream then.
Well, I don't know if it's a pipe dream. I think he's talking more about community events, again, going back to getting performances outside, and potentially we start them now. If in the event the Glendora Avenue project moves forward, we already have some established community events happening. Farmers Market is doing that now. They have outdoor music that's taking place at the Farmers Market, and so they're using that same venue too.
Any other comments, questions? Okay, moving on to ad hoc committee reports. Do we have any? Seeing none. Okay, commissioner reports. Let's start to my right, Commissioner Redondo.
Nothing to report. I already brought up Boone Bridge. That's what I was going to report on, so I'm good. Thank you.
Commissioner Blackburn.
I would just like to thank staff and thank my fellow commissioners for all the hard work, and certainly wish you a happy new year and a prosperous new year.
Thank you. Commissioner Dim. Commissioner Collins.
Nothing to report.
Commissioner Kennedy.
Yeah, not really, but I got the floor. I want to thank you, Mike, for all you do, buddy. I know putting that poll together has been a headache. I've seen it. I've seen what you've gone through. I want to say thank you.
It's my favorite place.
People don't understand what you actually have to go through. I have a question. Does Edgewood have a football team?
They do not, and I can't answer whether they're going to or not. My gut tells me that they're going to go to a football team, but currently they do not.
Okay, so that's a multi-use field.
Yes.
Okay, it's not just for soccer. Because when I went to Edgewood, we actually had a football team, and I actually played on that field.
How many students did you have at that time?
We had just as many as South Hill students.
And how many was that?
Probably around 1,200 students when I was in school.
How many students are at Edgewood now? High school?
I want to say they're up to 1,600, but they still have 7th and 8th graders there too,
It's
right?
900, just over 900 high schoolers.
Oh, okay, I thought, okay.
Commissioner Lewis.
Nothing to report, just Happy New Year.
Commissioner Stewart.
Right, I'll echo my buddy Paul over there. Everybody have a happy new year. I did stop by senior citizens, the community center today, and I missed Tuesday. I think she was at a meeting with one of you this afternoon about 3 o'clock.
Yep, she went with all of us.
Anyway, I talked to the young gentleman, very nice at the desk there, and took a look around the place. It's very neat. It looks very nice now. I asked him if there's any problems, and because I remember last time I was there, there was a problem with the security system. And he said they got the front building, problem's been solved, and nighttime it's no problem, and it goes on. The back building is still a problem. It goes off by itself sometimes, and if it is go to the police station, so every time it goes off, they make a call over there. And if it's in the middle of the night, it's bad. So it still needs some attention, so you might just pass that on. But generally speaking, the center looks really nice. It looks great. It really does. That's it for me.
Vice Chair Lopez.
Happy New Year. It's good to see everybody back in good health. So I'm glad that. Looking forward to the challenges. But other than that, nothing to report.
Okay. Also, Happy New Year to everyone. Back at work for the new year. Lots of interesting things happening. I did attend the Home for the Holidays tour. Saw some really great lighting displays that local residents have put together. and hopefully we'll be able to continue that this coming holiday season and into the future. There's also the West Covina Beautiful Fashion Show that was in November. That was a big success. And those are about, I guess, the only events that I have attended. Items to be agenda, Commissioner Stewart.
Are you going to post the winners of the Christmas tour? I never heard
Oh,
of it.
they are on the West Covina Beautiful website.
Oh, they are?
I believe.
Because my neighbor already got an honorable mention, and that's such a fantastic house. Talking about Paul Fleming's house.
Oh, my
They were given signs to put up.
Yeah, he's got an honorable mention. I'd like to see the one that won.
Yeah,
If he got honorable mention.
yeah, and it is on West Covina.
What street's the winner on? What street is the winner on?
The winner was the same one as last year on Verness.
Did you see that house on Vine, just west of Melinda, 2 doors?
You know, because of the police incident at Cameron and Glendora, we couldn't go through there. We had to cut out the houses in that area.
Because the man and wife did that house themselves. It was awesome.
Yeah.
You couldn't even get by there at nighttime. The people watching.
Well, the tour started over an hour late because the bus went through there and was over an hour late getting to Cameron, and then we had to cut out the houses in that area because the incident was still going on. But the winners are on westcovinabeautiful.org.
What's going to be what are you thinking?
Okay, anyone have any item they'd like to be agendized? Okay, and upcoming events. Listed on here are next Monday's Dr. Martin Luther King Day tribute, as we always have, and February 20th, Student Government Day, sponsored by the Kiwanis Club and the City Council Chambers. I'd also like to add on February 16th at South Hills Country Club will be the West Covina Beautiful's City of West Covina 95th birthday party. And it's going to be a little different type of event this year. There will be the regular dinner and award presentation, music first, and then later in the evening will be an after party down the hall in the terrace area, which will be a casino, cognac, and cigar event.
What day is that, I'm sorry? What day is that?
It's February 16th, Friday night, February 16th.
And what awards are we going to be giving out?
We'll give out awards for beautification in the city to residential business, business owners, and I believe there's a third award that escapes me at the moment. But it's the same categories as every year. Residential beautification, business beautification, and one other.
And I wanted to let the commission know that I just received an email tonight, just before the meeting, that said the East San Gabriel Valley Japanese Community Center did confirm that they are going to be hosting the Cherry Blossom event. And that festival will be co-sponsored with the Plaza, so it'll actually be moving. So those of you who have gone to it at South Hills will be at the Plaza. I envision it being outdoors, close to the 10 freeway maybe, or at least on the Best Buy side potentially. And that's going to be on March 17th from 12 to 6 p.m.
Okay.
February 16th is also our Lunar New Year.
Oh.
There's a lot of Asian, you'll see some activities going on and you're wondering what it is. So it's Lunar New Year.
It can be popular, you mean. On that note, is there a motion to adjourn?
Second.
Hearing no opposition, the commission meeting is adjourned.